What is a house but bricks and mortar, walls and doors, a roof under which to lay our heads? A house is a timepiece, collecting history, recording the stories of everyday living. The Glenn House holds a story of a family of ordinary people, living in all but a forgotten era, but an extraordinary era of progress and technology that shaped the future of our country and impacts even our personal life today.
The Glenn House was built by Edwin Dean, and he was the father of Lula Glenn. David and Lula Glenn were married in 1881. In 1883, they moved into this house that Lula's father had built for them.
David didn't have a lot of money. He built the Mercantile and of course became a partner in one of the first large banks. So they had a very prosperous life for a time. And then shortly after the turn of the century, there was a recession. And in that recession, the businesses that David owned began to struggle, and particularly the bank.
A great deal of work was done to figure out why there were some discrepancies, and the upshot of it was that David Glenn declared bankruptcy and made good on all the debts, including selling this house. David and Lula are a rags to riches success story, followed by a decline almost to those rags again. And it's a story of how a very devoted couple managed to survive many hardships, including the loss of their children, the loss of their home, and the loss of their income and social standing. This had become a dormitory for students at the college until by the 1960s, and also eventually became neglected, abandoned. Vagrants lived here. A few years later, restoration began. Volunteers came in and ripped up floors and sanded paint off and found pieces of furniture to refurbish the house, and looked for carpets and anything that could be done by someone who isn't a construction worker was done by volunteers.
45 years they've managed to keep this house standing. Everything you see in this shot, and if you looked around, everything that's hand painted on the walls, much of that was done by community volunteers. Restoration projects, a furnace breaks, and someone volunteers their time to come and help with it for 45 years. It's incredible.
As I have been involved with the house, I've been able to watch us continue to make improvements. Not so much improvements in restoration, but improvements in accuracy and information that we're sharing with our guests.
We've reconnected with the actual Glenn family, family members that no longer live in this area. The family kind of became, over the years, spread very far and wide. And so they've actually come back and are still coming back. And each time we get a chance to visit with them, they're bringing us more of their familial history in as well. So we can take those historical records and research and cross-reference that with family records. And it's given us a unique ability to get a good sense of who this family is.
We try to allow people to take a step back in time and not just hear about what things were like, but to experience it for just a moment.
You can interact with this house. You can touch the woodwork, you can walk through all of the rooms. There's a lot to be learned from looking at where we came from as we look forward to where we want to go.
We really want it to be kind of a living history museum. It's not stuffy and it's not a hands-off place.
And I think you could ask any person who's affiliated with the Glenn House, whether they're a board member or a docent, and they would each have something different to tell you about why this house just gets into your blood and never goes away.
You can change a lot of things about an old house. You can tear down moldering wallpaper and apply layers of fresh paint. You can retile the floors, remodel the whole interior if you like. Yet there are certain things that will still mark a house's age, things human hands cannot change or erase. Echoes of laughter, late night secrets shared, wishes made, arguments had, all absorbed into these walls. A house remembers everything it witnessed, down to its very foundation. Sometimes, though, there's something else a house remembers, something that sets it apart from the crumbling structures abandoned along roadsides. Love. The Glenn House isn't a history lecture. It's all about experiencing, just for a moment, the way life was in a small river town in the heart of a country, and what people thought and felt 5 generations ago. It's about understanding life in a society that's very different than today, an America many of us have either forgotten or never even knew existed.